welcome back to the channel. Occasionally I make music to order, clients with very specific needs, and this cue is something like that. I'm gonna break this down and show you why I've used the sounds that I've used and how I've arranged it to go up and down in dynamics to fit a visual on the screen. I've just, as an example, used the movie Commando from 1985 with Arnold Schwarzenegger as an example of how to use a cue like this. Not meant to take any way away from the brilliant original score by James Horner. I just found this clip to be suitable for explanation and the breakdown. So let's head out into the DAW and see how I've done it. So what do we have here? Well, we have drums, we have bass, we have synths, and we have some brass. So let's check out what we've got going for drums. Let's play it from the intro. So just some kicks, we have some congas, and we have a little bit of a loop here with some reverb on it to create a sort of ambience in the background. This is from Nexus 5. I also have some congas, also from Nexus 5. Just a little loop. You'll definitely hear it if I take it out, but you're not necessarily hearing it in the final cue. I also have some kicks going, and I've also put some reverbs on the kicks. Oh, I forgot. We also had some hi-hats here. And the hi-hats are playing a kind of like a marching snare would sound in terms of pattern, just going underneath there to create that sort of kind of military vibe to it as well. And we're back. And as we're building up towards more action, I add some shakers. And before a little break around this part where we sort of catch our breath, I come in with some loops, some action loops from the Trias plugin from Wave Alchemy, again to add some more cinematic flair and sort of build it up a little bit before I take it down, before I go full on with the parts over here. So let's hear that. And we take it down and we build it up again. I've added a snare here, and now I come in with more cinematic, punchy drums. So that are the drums in isolation, and of course I don't build up this cue starting with the drums and layer drums and then I move on. These drums are added bit by bit as I've built up the arrangement. So let's check out the bass here, just two parts. So let's check out the bass here, two parts. We have one kind of arpeggiated part from the Arturia V collection, the ARP 2600. Just set it up to do a simple arpeggiated thing, and I add onto that a Jupiter 8 bass, which is now on a MIDI track. When I do cues like this for a game, some parts I lay down as audio straight away because I know they're going to sound like that throughout the arrangement. But sometimes I have parts that will vary, which I have to re-record again and again during the development of the arrangement. And here, this is that bass part, so that will remain a MIDI part up till the very end, where I export it out as audio before I mix everything for the final time or the last time. So at this stage, this is still a MIDI track, so I can easily go in and change things. And the Jupiter 8 bass, I sort of just play on instinct, where I think the bass should be emphasized or augmented, at least in the first part of the cue. At the second section, where I go full on, I've just played a few bars and I've copied that part to the rest of the cue. So I've added some delays to the ARP bass that goes way out left and right, while the Jupiter 8 bass stays pretty much in mono. So they don't interfere too much with each other in terms of frequencies. The ARP bass is very non-bassy, so to speak. I've filtered that a lot of the low end, while the Jupiter 8 bass has its low end retained, so they don't mess up with each other's frequencies. So that's the bass part. And then we have the synths. And we can mute the rhythm section and listen only to the synths. And since this was supposed to be a sort of jungly theme or rural theme, and also have some sort of military vibe to it, I thought that I would have to add a sort of fluty part eventually, because that always gives me that kind of jungly feel when I hear it together with other instruments in an arrangement like this. So we'll get to that. And the marimbas, of course, with lots of reverb going left and right. That's sort of is instant 80s and instant action, instant TV series, instant Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I think this was probably the first thing I recorded and just looped it. And this comes from, this is from a DX7. Yeah, this is audio now, but this is my DX7 sampled into my first Epic TAL sampler pack. So I've played it from the TAL sampler. Together with a little bit of a Nexus ARP here. And I also have some, and this is from the Hardware DX7, those preset clav sounds with lots of reverb and very hard striked attack on the keys. Lots of reverb, of course. And then another classic 80s sort of signature thing, a hard brass sound, again from the TAL sampler, but sampled by me into my pack from an MKS 80. That is basically a Jupiter 8 in module form. And I think it was the... you can't play a chord, a triad chord to make the sound. You have to do a sort of like an A, B, and E note at the same time. So it's more a suspended chord. That one there, and that also cues in those strings, which again is from the TAL sampler, and this is a sample of the Kawai K1. And one thing that I've avoided at all costs, which I most often will do, is to avoid any sort of chord feeling or chord structure or synths doing chords in an action cue like this. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some cues demand that. But in this case, I wanted to stay clear of a obvious chord structure. So there's basically just monophonic sounds or one note playing a kind of very simple melody line throughout, which can be a melody line simplified from a more theme, a more solid theme in other parts of a movie or a game, whatever. Just a hint of the main theme melody in this case. and it kind of works better for action cues like this, than having a chord feeling to the synths, which makes it more into a sort of song melody style type of cue, which I didn't want to have in this one. And now we're just about to go into that second part where we sort of just play the same loop over and over again, basically. And here I'll add in some, I would like to say, real brass. It's of course coming from samplers, but they are sampled off some real brass. So let's hear that. Some low horns from the Nexus, and we'll augment that with some harder, lower brass growls from a Contact library. And when I play parts like that, I don't quantize, I just play it in real time, strings and brass and pads and things with a basically pretty slow attack. Always play by hand, never quantized, to get that human feel, which is very important when doing 80s stuff. A lot of people seem to think that everything in the 80s was quantized to the 16ths, and that's wrong. A lot of stuff was played by hand. Drums, bass, everything. So never quantize everything unless you want to sound like Kraftwerk. So that's basically it for this cue. Lots of reverb on lots of stuff. Some delays going. I do a lot of high passing, not on everything. Not always necessary, but often necessary to do that, to get rid of mud. But you want to have some mid frequencies as well to cut through. So it's all done by listening to the mix as you go along and finding the right balance. Well, I hope you like this little breakdown. As you can see, I've used a lot of different sound sources for this. Samplers, real synths, VSTs, plugins, loops, whatever. Use any technique that works. As always, I'm Espen Kraft. See you next time. Cheers.